Today we're going to do a review of the Yamaha PW-X motor. Now I'm quite fortunate because I've managed to get a Haibike Allmtn 7.0 2017 model with the Yamaha motor last year, and I've ridden this quite extensively, so I've got a reasonably good understanding of how it works, how it performs, and what's good about it, what isn't. So this review is really my experiences over the last 12 months or so on how well mainly today the Yamaha motor performs. Not going to really talk about the bike as such, but how the actual Yamaha motor performs, just to give if you're interested in getting a bike with the Yamaha on it, what it's actually like. So my review is going to really concentrate on both the setup and the performance of the motor. So let's start off with the actual setup itself. So as you can see, the battery is mounted on the actual frame of the bike, and the motor here is down beside the bottom bracket. So you can see that the display unit is centered on the bike, fully integrated onto the bike, and that really gives it quite a lot of protection. And the little control unit here is on the left hand side, and it has the up and down toggles. It has a select area and it has a walk assist as well. So in terms of setup, it's pretty standard, but how does it actually perform? How do these different components actually perform when you go and buy one of these bikes? Well, let's start with the actual motor itself. So the motor is situated quite far down here. It's lower and lighter than previous Yamaha models, and it offers 5 levels of assist. It offers Eco Plus, Eco, Standard, High and Extra Power, and we'll talk about that in a little minute, about what that means. But ultimately, at its fullest setting, it's offering about 80 newtons of torque, and it's offering 320% assist, and that's one of the highest levels of assists on the current motors that are out there. The motor itself is also very well protected, as you can see here, with the plastic covers, and over the last 12 months I've had no issues with the motor, how it performs, and with the plastic cover. So in terms of the battery, so the battery it's a 500 watt battery on the motor. It slips in to the housing, unlocked by the key, and it produces 250 watts of output. So it's pretty standard to the motors that are around at the moment, and it's in my opinion it's performed well for me. I'm getting probably between 3 and 4 hours, sometimes more, depending on the assist level I'm using on the bike, and that gets me around pretty much every trail that I'm going to be using here in Scotland. So one of the great things about the motor and the battery on this Yamaha is the fact that it really has a sort of zero cadence type of feel to it. Now what does that actually mean? Well, what it means is that it's pretty much ready to give you assist levels from the get-go, from the start, and that is I find that quite useful, especially when you're going up sort of steep technical trails or anything like that, or if you happen to stop on an incline. Once you put your foot down this thing, it's ready to go, and you can actually feel the bike wanting to move forward. So in terms of the actual display itself, as I said, it's well integrated and solid here, as you can see. You're switching it on there. The blue lights, or the colour lights, are very useful. It tells you what level of assist. Right now it's in standard, and you can toggle up into high and extra power, and also down into the greens as well, into Eco and Eco Plus. It would have been probably better if the you actually had a differential between sort of standard and high, because sometimes when you're riding, you're not really sure whether you're in standard and high unless you can actually see the display and at a glance going uphill or downhill. Sometimes you're not able to do that. In terms of the information that's contained in the display, you can toggle through select, and it can give you a whole range of different information, all which is very useful. One of the things that I have found though is that the battery indicator level is very accurate and is done on a percentage basis, and this is one of the best that I've found. I've had a look at, and certainly the Yamaha battery indicator is one of the most reliable for how much juice you've got left in that tank, and that's very useful when you're out and about on the trails, knowing just how much you've got left. So thumbs up to Yamaha for that. In terms of the actual control unit here, I mean, it's fairly simple to use, it's reasonably well positioned, but what I would say is that you know, given the expense of a system like this is quite plasticky and cheap, and I think Yamaha could actually do better for not a lot more money, to be honest with you. This can get quite loose and flimsy. It's held together by a simple screw mechanism, and what you tend to find over time is that it can actually get loose like this, and that can be very challenging when you're going on the bike trying to get traction to press the buttons on it. So something I think Yamaha should be really looking at in the future. So what I would say is that the Shimano steps motor is now got a better way of controlling using the levers than this model here from Yamaha. Now, in having a look at the 2018 models, Yamaha have actually gone away from this now and put it back on here again, similar to the Shimano motor, and I think that's sort of 6.5 a dozen, to be honest. The thing will be fairly secure here or on here, but what I will say is that the way it's controlled could be better. So as I was saying, I think in terms of the control unit, I would probably only give that, I don't know, a 2 or 3 out of 10. Really, the Yamaha could do a lot better and get it more robust for you know, future models, and it really is probably the worst feature of the motor. But in terms of the control unit itself, gives you all the data. One of the things that I would say though is that 5 levels of assist is probably not really required. In my experience of probably riding, you know, 500-600 miles on the bike so far, I would say that you're really only using maybe eco, standard, and you know, occasionally the extra power setting to get you up really tough, gnarly, steep sections. In general terms, you don't really need Eco Plus, and you don't really need the high setting. The other thing I've found as well, and I know other users that I've spoken to have found, is that the way that the battery is actually connected and then slots in this down tube, it does create a level of rattle, and you can hear it there if I rattle it, and you will notice this when you're going over sort of looser terrain. You will hear the battery rattle, and it does get a bit annoying. And I know that there's some people who actually just buy Velcro straps and put them around the battery and the tube here to try and hold the battery in place. So I think there's more that Yamaha can do with how the battery is mounted, and indeed I think that you really should be considering some sort of battery integration into the down tube, either part integration or indeed full integration, and it's not beyond Yamaha to be able to create that, and they're sort of getting left behind a little bit with this insistence on just sticking it like this with this type of loose integration. So I wouldn't give them probably 5 out of 10 in terms of how the battery is integrated. Probably, you know, 8 or 9 out of 10 in terms of the juice in the battery and how it performs, although like any e-biker I would like to have more juice so that I can do more runs. Getting it to 600 odd watts would be fantastic in the future. But in terms of where the motor is, how it performs and where it is integrated, you know, I would certainly give that 9 out of 10. Very little more I think they can do there. It's very, very good and very powerful. Another area that I would call out as a negative towards the control unit is just this sort of cheapy plasticky cover here, and what can happen is you can get condensation that can come in here through under the cover, and you can get some moisture behind the screen, and you can see some, I don't know if you can quite pick it out there, but there's some moisture in mine. Now obviously that dries out over time and it doesn't seem to affect the performance of it, but again it just shows you the, you know, the manufacturing concept of this. So I think that, you know, it can be a little bit more studied, and maybe the 2018 model that places it over here will be more water resistant. There are some improvements that can be made, but what I would say in general terms, it's been very reliable, provided me with excellent assistance, and I've had lots of fun with it. So well done Yamaha. More to do, I think, more you can eke out of this thing, but overall I'd probably give it a 7 or an 8 out of 10. So thanks for listening today. If you've got any comments or questions on the Yamaha WP-X in terms of other things that you know, I might have missed out in terms of performance or how it feels or anything like that, please leave them in the comments and I'll endeavour to answer them if I can. But I hope you found that useful. Thanks, and have fun out in the trails.